A modern long-haul pipeline includes meticulously welded sections of high-strength steel located underground. It also includes above-ground facilities like compressor stations and measurement and pressure regulation equipment. Pipelines are constructed on what engineers call a moving assembly line. Building a pipeline involves a large specialized workforce, tons of steel pipe, mechanical equipment such as backhoes and side booms, and miles of environmental silk fencing that helps clearly define the work boundaries and prevent environmental damage and unnecessary erosion brought on by weather or other events during construction. Every step of the process is guided by company and contract engineers, designers, manufacturers, and craftspeople with years of experience in constructing natural gas pipelines. All meet and often exceed the highest governmental and engineering standards for safety, environmental protection, and operational reliability. Great effort is taken to minimize impact to landowners during the construction process. Every step of the project is carefully planned, and multiple construction crews are used along the pipeline route to install the system efficiently and restore the work area as quickly as practical to minimize impact to the public. Depending on the terrain, a skilled work crew can install more than a mile of pipeline per day. Once in place, the pipeline system will be well marked with surface-level signage and well maintained under strict federal and engineering standards after being placed into service. An object-free and clearly defined right-of-way corridor is critically important to pipeline companies both during the construction and operation. While a temporary workspace width of about 100 feet is generally required during construction, the permanent right-of-way for a long-haul natural gas pipeline is typically 50 feet wide or roughly 25 feet on either side of the buried pipeline. The right-of-way helps identify the presence of an underground pipeline. Crews begin work by clearing the right-of-way, often using specialized heavy equipment. They will remove all trees and brush and stumps from the construction work area. Workers often cut timber down to usable lengths or otherwise dispose of the timber after seeking landowner input. Teams then grade the land, where practical, to provide a relatively level surface to allow safe operation of the heavy equipment used to excavate the trench and install the pipe in the trench. Crews excavate a trench that is wide enough to safely support the depth of the trench and to allow lowering in of the pipe without damage to the pipeline coating or harm to construction personnel. In some rocky areas, blasting will be required to excavate the trench. Steel pipe sections of 40 or 80-foot lengths, called joints, are trucked to the construction work area and strung out along the route in the areas where they are to be welded together. As necessary, crews bend the pipe joints to follow the route of the pipeline and contours of the ground using a specialized pipe bending machine. The amount of bend in the pipe section is limited to avoid damaging the pipe or coating. Once the individual pipe joints are bent to fit the trench, highly qualified welders weld the joints together into long continuous sections that can span several thousand feet depending on terrain. Each weld made on the pipeline is done to international standards and is visually inspected. The entire welding process is then verified with either radiographic or ultrasonic technologies. Welds that do not pass stringent requirements are repaired or replaced. After inspection, crews apply a specialized corrosion protection coating to each of the weld joint areas. The coating on the entire pipe section is then electronically checked for any coating problems and repaired prior to lowering the pipe in the trench. Teams lower pipe sections into the trench using special pipe laying tractors called side booms. They take care not to damage the coating during this process. Crews also place the pipe in the trench on sandbag benches to prevent damage to the pipe coating. The coating is rechecked again. Welders then weld together the ends of each completed pipe section in the trench to form a continuous pipeline. Once long sections of pipe are completely in the trench, crews carefully replace the soil and other materials excavated from the trench over the pipeline. They place a layer of rock-free pad dirt all around the pipe to protect the coating. As various sections are completed and the trench is backfilled, a specialized testing crew fills the pipeline with water to a pressure significantly higher than the maximum pressure the pipe will ever operate. Pressure is held for a minimum of several hours to test the structural integrity and overall strength of the pipeline and to allow minute water leaks to be found. They do this hydrostatic or pressure test to verify the overall integrity of the pipeline. Any problems found are fixed and the test rerun. The cleanup and restoration process starts as soon as practical after the pipe trench is backfilled. It continues until the construction work area is restored and revegetated. Crews replace all terrain to original contours as much as possible and restore the work area using seeding and soil preparation specific to the affected area to restore ground cover and to minimize erosion. Temporary workspaces will be allowed to return to their previous state, either wooded or open, but the permanent right-of-way corridor must remain free of most obstructions to signal to any passerby that underground utilities are present. Crews place above-ground markers at locations such as road crossings and other strategic places along the route to further indicate the presence of a pipeline. Markers contain important information like the operating company's contact phone numbers and the commodity being transported. Once construction is completed, the right-of-way typically can be used for most residential, commercial, or agricultural purposes, provided the use does not interfere with the safe operation, maintenance, inspection, and repair of the pipeline, or obstruct access to and along the right-of-way. Restrictions are documented in easement agreements. In general, no permanent structures should be placed on the right-of-way. Some examples of these types of obstructions include houses, decks, sheds, pools, and septic tanks. Also, tall vegetation or trees should not be placed on or near the right-of-way. Some items such as driveways, fences, and improved parking lots may be placed over and across a right-of-way if they meet certain requirements to protect the pipeline. Always check with the pipeline operator and easement restrictions prior to beginning any work.